My name is Nora Callahan. I am 28 years old. And 13 years ago, on the most violent storm night I can remember, my father pointed at our front door and said words that I have never been able to unhear. "You are not my daughter anymore. Get out." I was 15, soaking wet within 30 seconds of stepping outside. Homeless before I even understood what that word meant in the context of my own life. The reason he did it, my younger sister had told a lie. Not a childish, impulsive lie. A calculated, structured, deliberate act of destruction that my parents swallowed whole without asking a single question. And just like that, I ceased to exist in the family I had been born into. 3 hours later, a police officer called my parents from a hospital emergency room. I had been struck by a vehicle in the middle of the storm. When my father walked through those hospital doors and saw who was seated beside my bed, his hands were trembling so badly he had to grip the door frame to hold himself upright. He whispered, You cannot possibly be here. How did you even know?" The woman sitting beside me was Professor Catherine Marsh, one of the most decorated academics in the entire state university system. She had found me collapsed on the side of the road and refused to leave until she knew I was safe. That one night rewired the entire trajectory of my life. And last spring, I stood at the podium of my younger sister's graduation ceremony as the featured keynote speaker. My parents were seated somewhere in that audience. They had absolutely no idea I was walking through the doors that morning. Before I tell you what happened when they finally spotted me on that stage, I want to pause and ask you something. If you have ever been told by someone who is supposed to love you unconditionally that something is fundamentally wrong with you, that you are too much, too broken, too inconvenient, I want you to stay with this story all the way through. Because I built something from that night. Something real. And I want you to see what that looks like. Please take a moment to subscribe if these kinds of stories speak to you. Drop a comment and tell me where in the world you are watching this from and what time it is right there. I genuinely want to know. Now let me take you back to the very beginning of how this story got built. I understood early, younger than any child should have to understand it, that in our household, my sister's tears carried more weight than my accomplishments ever would. When I was 11 years old, I placed first at the Regional Science and Technology Fair. My project was a functional model of a solar-powered water desalination system. 42 other students entered that competition. I took home the top ribbon. I remember running the entire 4 blocks from the bus stop to our front door clutching that blue ribbon so tightly the edges left a crease in my palm. I burst through the door, heart hammering, and found my mother standing at the kitchen counter slicing fruit. "I won, Mom," I said. "First place, out of 42 students." She turned and smiled and pulled me into a hug, said, "That is wonderful, sweetheart. I am so proud of you." And for about 45 seconds, the world felt exactly right. Then my sister Celeste came in through the back door from her gymnastics session. She was 8 years old. Her face was blotchy and wet, lower lip wobbling. She had stumbled during her floor routine and another girl had laughed at her. Mom released me mid-sentence and moved directly to Celeste, kneeling down, gathering her up, stroking her hair. "Oh, my sweet baby, that must have felt so embarrassing. Let's get you some water and you can tell me everything." I stood in the kitchen doorway still holding my ribbon. Nobody asked to see it. Nobody asked what it was for. Nobody asked anything at all. I set it on the counter and went upstairs, and that was the last time I brought a trophy or an award home expecting a reaction. That was the pattern that defined the next 4 years of my life. Celeste needed more. Celeste was sensitive. Celeste required a particular kind of careful, constant handling. And I was expected to accept that without complaint because accepting it graciously was simply what older sisters did. I adjusted accordingly. I stopped showing my parents my report cards, even when I was consistently earning straight A's in some of the most demanding courses my school offered. I stopped mentioning awards and achievements. I stopped taking up space. By the time I was 14, I had learned to exist in our house like background noise, present but unobtrusive, functional but undemanding. When I received a letter offering me a fully funded spot at a prestigious 2-week summer research institute for high school students, one of only 12 spots available in the entire region, I was genuinely excited for about 12 hours. Dad glanced up from his laptop when I showed him and said, "Oh, nice." Celeste heard the word camp and immediately began crying. Why did I get to go somewhere special? Why wasn't she being invited to things like that? Mom patted her shoulder and suggested, very gently, very carefully, that perhaps I could defer my spot until the following year, just until things settled down at home. Your sister needs to feel valued too, Nora. You understand that. You are the older one. You are the one who can handle disappointment. I did not go to the research institute. I told myself I was being mature. I was being compassionate. I was being the bigger person. What I was actually being was erased, incrementally and systematically, by a household that had decided one daughter's emotional comfort was worth more than the other daughter's future. And the breaking point was approaching. I just had no idea it would arrive wearing a storm. The dishonesty started the way a lot of serious things start, with something small enough to dismiss. Celeste, who was 12 by then, had developed a habit of borrowing my belongings without permission. My earrings, my book bag, my cardigan. When I mentioned it calmly and without accusation, she would look me dead in the eyes and deny it completely. The cardigan would still be draped across her chair. She would still deny it. Mom would sigh and say, "Nora, please don't start arguments over clothes." One afternoon, $50 went missing from Mom's wallet. Celeste told our parents she had seen me near the kitchen counter where the wallet was kept. I had not been near that counter. I had left for school 40 minutes before Mom even woke up. Dad called me into his office that evening and asked, without preamble, whether I had taken money from my mother's purse. I told him no. He told me Celeste had seen me. I told him Celeste was lying. His jaw hardened. He told me not to make accusations about my sister. I told him I was telling the truth. He said that was enough, and that he was deeply disappointed in me, and that I clearly needed to reflect on the kind of person I was becoming. I lost phone privileges for a month. The next summer's Research Institute spot, which Mom had quietly resecured on my behalf after the previous year's sacrifice, was revoked. "We cannot reward someone we cannot trust," she said. Celeste watched from the staircase. When my parents turned away, she smiled at me, a slow, deliberate smile. That $50 was reconnaissance. Celeste had been running an experiment to determine exactly how far she could push before there were consequences, and the answer she got back was, "As far as you want. There are no consequences. Not for you." The pattern accelerated after that. A ceramic lamp knocked off a shelf, my fault for leaving the hallway cluttered. A failed exam Celeste hadn't studied for, I should have been helping her more consistently. A rumor circulating at school that Celeste had copied answers on a group assignment. I must have been the one who started it, because who else would want to embarrass her that way? I stopped defending myself. Not because I gave up, but because I recognized that the verdict was always delivered before the trial began. By the time I was 15, I felt like a piece of furniture in my own home, occasionally useful, never actually seen. I started spending my evenings at the public library 3 blocks from school, or at my friend Priya's kitchen table, or literally anywhere that wasn't inside those walls. I told myself I only had to survive 2 more years. Graduate, scholarship, leave. I could manage 2 more years. I was not correct about that. October, junior year. The specific week everything collapsed had begun unremarkably enough. There was a boy in my AP chemistry class named Declan. He was smart, funny in a dry and understated way, genuinely interested in people. He struggled with stoichiometry the way most students did, treating it like a foreign language rather than a logical system. And after our teacher mentioned I'd scored a perfect on the unit exam, Declan had asked if I'd be willing to go over the concepts with him after school. I said sure. We met in the library twice that week, worked through mole ratios and limiting reagents with scratch paper and highlighters. That was the complete sum of our interaction. Celeste had a crush on Declan. I did not know the full depth of it at the time, though I would come to understand it vividly later. She had been writing his name in her diary. She had been timing her walk past certain hallways to coincide with when his class let out. She had invested months of quiet, consuming, private emotional energy into a person who had no idea she existed, because she was a 7th grader and he was a junior and they had never spoken. On the Wednesday of that week, Declan stopped me at my locker and said thanks again for the help, and asked if I wanted to partner up for the upcoming midterm review. I said the library worked. He said great and walked away. I turned around and Celeste was standing 15 feet down the hallway, staring. Her face had gone the particular gray-white of someone who has just been handed information they were not equipped to process. She didn't say anything. I almost said something, almost asked if she was okay, but the warning bell rang and she disappeared around the corner. At dinner that night, she didn't speak, pushed food around her plate, answered Mom's questions in single syllables, stared at the table. I noticed. I also noticed that the silence coming from her was different from the sulking I was accustomed to. It was calculated, still, premeditated. I should have trusted that instinct and done something with it. I did not. 2 days later, I stayed after my biology class to speak with a guest lecturer who had come in to talk about research methodology and educational equity. Her name was Professor Catherine Marsh. She held a chair position at the State University's School of Education, and she was precisely the kind of person who could hold a room without raising her voice, sharp, warm, deliberate in the way she chose words. I asked 3 or 4 questions after the presentation. She answered each one thoroughly and then looked at me with a kind of focused attention that most adults never gave teenagers. "You think carefully before you speak," she said. "That's rarer than it should be." She gave me her department business card and told me not to let anyone dim whatever it was that made me curious. I thanked her, tucked the card into my notebook, and went to my next class with no understanding whatsoever that she had just become one of the most important people my life would ever encounter. The storm warning started circulating Thursday morning. By Friday afternoon, the weather service had escalated it to a significant wind and rain event, gusts high enough to close the outdoor athletic facilities, rainfall heavy enough to flood the low-lying streets on the east side of town. Everyone was preparing. People were canceling plans, stocking pantries, pulling their cars under covered structures. Our household was tense in the way it always got before bad weather, Dad checking the news obsessively, Mom making sure the flashlight batteries were functional, Celeste and I doing our respective things in our respective rooms. I had homework to finish, a literature essay and a chemistry problem set. I had every intention of spending the weekend quietly, getting ahead on my coursework, staying out of everyone's way. I had absolutely no idea what was being built in the room next door. The rain began in earnest around 6 in the evening. We ate dinner. The conversation was sparse. Celeste still wasn't speaking directly to me, but I'd had enough experience with her silences that I'd stopped reading into them. The weather alert kept buzzing on Dad's phone. I finished dinner quickly, helped clear the dishes, and went back upstairs. By 8 o'clock, I was 20 minutes into my essay when I heard Celeste crying. Not the light, theatrical crying she produced when she wanted attention at dinner. Deep, heaving sobs that carried up through the floor, Mom's voice murmuring, the sounds of reassurance. I put my pen down and listened, because some part of me already understood that whatever was happening downstairs was going to involve me eventually. Dad's voice cut through the ambient noise from the floor below. "Nora, get down here right now." Each step down that staircase felt like descending into something I couldn't name yet. The living room scene I walked into was staged with the precision of theater. Celeste on the sofa with her face pressed into Mom's shoulder. Mom rubbing her back. Dad standing at the fireplace with his arms crossed, and a particular set to his jaw that I had only ever seen when he had already made up his mind about something and was conducting the conversation as a formality. "What's happening?" I asked. Celeste looked up. Her eyes were swollen and red and streaming. And for just a fraction of a second, barely a blink, something else moved across her face, something entirely dry and deliberate behind the tears. Then it was gone, and she was the picture of devastated again. "Tell your sister what you told us," Dad said. His voice was flat and absolutely certain. Celeste's lip trembled. "I just don't understand why you hate me so much." I felt the floor tilt slightly beneath me. "I don't hate you. What are you talking about?" "Tell her," Mom said quietly to Celeste. "Tell her what you showed us." Celeste held out her phone with shaking hands, a screenshot, a group chat, messages supposedly sent from my account saying vicious, targeting things about Celeste, about her gymnastics ability, about a rumor involving a boy, about a test she had apparently failed. My name, my profile photo, my account, words I had never written. I didn't write any of those. My voice surprised me with how steady it came out. "Someone accessed my account. Those aren't my words." "Stop." Dad's voice was not raised, which somehow made it worse. "I will not have another excuse. I will not sit here and watch you lie to my face about something Celeste has shown us evidence of. That's not evidence. That's a screenshot. Someone created that or hacked my account or Nora." Mom's voice was tired, exhausted, like she had already decided and the conversation was already over. And Declan, Celeste said very quietly, like she was confessing something painful rather than detonating a charge. You knew how I felt about him. You went after him anyway. You've been meeting with him after school. You've been at the library with him on purpose. He needed help with chemistry. We were studying. He told his friend you were pretty. That is not something I have any control over. You did it on purpose. Celeste's voice was rising now. You knew I loved him and you walked in there and turned on whatever it is you do, and now he doesn't even know I exist and you don't even care about him. You just wanted to take something that mattered to me. That's not true, and you know it isn't true. Then she pulled up her sleeve, a bruise on her forearm, broad and dark purple, the kind that comes from a significant impact. She pushed me, Celeste said. On the stairs, last week, she shoved me against the railing. The room went completely silent. I stared at that bruise. I had never touched my sister in anger in my entire life. I did not do that. Mom, she did. I didn't want to say anything because I kept thinking maybe she didn't mean it, but she did mean it. She's been hurting me for years and nobody ever. Where did that bruise come from? Dad's voice was very quiet now. I don't know. I wasn't there when she got it, but I did not cause it. She did it herself, I said, and the words came out before I could evaluate them, and I knew the moment they landed that they were the wrong words at the right time, true but tactical, accurate but devastating to my credibility in that room. Celeste's face crumpled with what looked like shock, fresh tears. You think I would hurt myself just to get you in trouble? Yes, I said. I think exactly that. Because you have been doing a version of it for 3 years. You took money out of Mom's wallet and blamed me. You told them I spread rumors about you and you made it up. And now you've staged whatever this is. Dad's hand came down on the mantel and the sound made everyone go still. There is something wrong with you, he said. His voice was not angry anymore. It was something worse, clinical, convinced. Something is genuinely wrong with how you treat this family, how you treat your sister. There is nothing wrong with me. Please, I am telling you the truth. Please I have heard enough, he said. Enough defending yourself, enough excuses, enough of this. They're not excuses. Enough. Mom had turned away from me, was pulling Celeste closer, and the particular angle of her shoulders, the deliberate redirect, the refusal to look at me was its own kind of verdict. Dad, I moved toward him. Please, look at me. I have never lied to you about anything that matters. Please look at me and just get out of my sight. His voice dropped to almost nothing. I don't want to look at you right now. I don't want you in this house right now. There is something sick about you, Nora, and I don't know how to fix it, but I cannot have it in this house tonight. It's storming outside. I'm aware of the weather. Where am I supposed to? That is not my concern right now. I need you gone. He pointed at the door. Get out. I don't want a daughter like you in this house. Those words, a daughter like you, landed somewhere underneath the surface of my chest and have never entirely left. I walked to the entryway on legs I could not feel properly and took my jacket off the hook, and my hands shook so badly I couldn't zip it up, so I just held it closed with my fist. The door closed behind me. Through the glass panel, I could see Celeste watching me from across the living room. She wasn't crying anymore. She was smiling. The rain hit me like something physical, not precipitation, but pressure. A wall of cold water that soaked through my jacket in under a minute. I stood on the porch for what felt like a very long time, but was probably less than 30 seconds, waiting. Maybe he would open the door. Maybe Mom would. Maybe one of them would come outside and say they had overreacted and bring me back inside, and we would figure this out. The door did not open. I started walking. I had no destination. I was simply moving away from the house because standing still in front of it was something I could not make myself do. My phone had 8% battery when I tried calling my friend Priya. No answer. I tried our mutual friend Jasmine, straight to voicemail. It was a Friday night in a storm warning. Everyone was exactly where they were supposed to be, inside, safe, warm, with their families. The wind pulled my hair across my face and I couldn't see properly, and the rain was running into my eyes, and I remember thinking in a very detached way that I should try to find shelter, that I needed to think strategically about this, that panicking would not help. The library was 2.5 blocks away. Maybe it was still open. It wasn't. Dark windows, padlocked main entrance, a handwritten sign on the door about emergency closures. The bus terminal was roughly 2 miles in the other direction. If I could get there, it would at least be covered, and I could sit and try to figure out what my options were and wait out the worst of the weather. I walked, every step in soaked shoes, every gust of wind pushing against me like something that had a personal investment in stopping me from getting where I was going. Thunder cracked close enough overhead that I felt it in my sternum. Lightning turned the street white for half a second. I thought about turning around, about knocking on the door, about begging. And then I thought about my father's face, not the anger in it, but the certainty, the absolute conviction that I was the kind of person who deserved what was happening to me right now, and I kept walking. The bus terminal was still over a mile away. I was crossing an intersection. The traffic light above me was green. I am certain it was green. The rain was coming down nearly horizontally by that point, driven by the wind, and visibility was down to almost nothing. And the car that appeared in my peripheral vision gave no warning beyond a sudden screaming of brakes. The impact happened faster than I could process it, the bright wash of headlights, the horn, my own body going sideways, and then airborne, and then connecting with the surface of the road in a way that drove every coherent thought out of my head simultaneously. I was on my back on wet asphalt. Rain was pouring directly into my open eyes. I could not move my right arm. I could not tell which way was up for a moment. I heard a car door, running footsteps through standing water, a woman's voice, high and frantic, dropping quickly into something more controlled and purposeful. "Do not move. Do not try to get up. I'm calling for help right now. Can you tell me your name?" I tried to answer. What came out was not language. "Look at me. Look at my eyes." Her face swam into focus above mine. Dark hair plastered flat by the rain, professional clothes. I recognized her distantly and strangely through the pain. I had seen her recently. "My parents." I managed something close to words eventually. "Your parents, give me a number and I will call them right this second." "They don't," I coughed, something warm and metallic in my throat. "They don't want me there." There was a pause above me. I could hear her breathing, controlled, steady, and I could hear the 911 call she had already placed. "What do you mean they don't want you there?" "They told me to leave. They said I was sick, that I wasn't their daughter anymore." I watched her face change, not collapse into pity, but sharpen into something focused and very still. "Okay," she said. Her voice had changed register entirely. "I need you to listen to me. You are going to be okay. I'm going to make sure you are okay." I believed her, which was strange given that I had never believed anything that easily before. The sirens started somewhere in the distance and came closer quickly. The woman's face was the last thing I understood before the darkness arrived and took everything else with it. I don't have memories of the ambulance. No memory of the ER intake, of the imaging they ran, of whoever called my parents, or how the conversation went when they received the news. My first point of genuine consciousness is auditory, the mechanical beeping of monitoring equipment, fluorescent lighting I could sense even through closed eyelids, the antiseptic smell of a hospital corridor, and a voice I recognized. Professor Marsh's voice, not panicked anymore. Measured, authoritative, fully in command of a situation. "The concussion is significant. There may be some internal bleeding. She needs to stay for extended observation." I attempted to open my eyes. Too much effort. My head felt like a stone that someone had split down the middle and inadequately reassembled. "I'm staying," she said to someone. "I am not leaving her here alone." "Ma'am, are you a family member?" "I am the person whose vehicle struck her, and I am not leaving." Time moved in a fragmented, unreliable way after that. Voices arrived and departed around me. At some point, I heard voices I had known my entire life, and the contrast between those voices and the steady, warm, watchful presence that had not left my bedside was the most disorienting thing about the entire night. "We are Nora Callahan's parents," Dad's voice, pressed down, performing composure. "Mr. and Mrs. Callahan." Professor Marsh's voice was different now, still controlled, but cold in the way that a surgeon's instruments are cold, functional, without warmth, precisely what the situation required. "I'm Professor Catherine Marsh. I hold the endowed chair for educational equity research at the State University." A pause, the name landing. "You're the professor who, Celeste mentioned. I am the person who struck your daughter with my vehicle tonight, because she was walking alone in a major storm at 11 o'clock in the evening. Would you like to explain to me why a 15-year-old was doing that? We had a family situation. There was a disciplinary matter, and what kind of disciplinary matter ends with a child walking into traffic?" Silence, long enough to be an answer. "She told me something before she lost consciousness," Professor Marsh said. Her voice had not risen. "She told me her parents didn't want her anymore, that she had been told she was sick." "She was exaggerating," Mom said. Her voice had a tremor in it. "She does that. She's very dramatic when she's upset, and she wasn't exaggerating. She was barely conscious. She used exactly those words. You can't possibly know what goes on inside our family." "No, but I know what I was told by a girl who had no reason to lie to a stranger while she was fatting out. And then Celeste's voice, small, careful. She's making it up. Nora always exaggerates things. She was probably embarrassed about being out in the rain and she wanted, I wasn't speaking to you. Professor Marsh's voice silenced the room completely. I became aware slowly that I was managing to keep my eyes open to narrow slits. Shapes, movement, the blur of people I knew being held in place by a woman I had met exactly once before this evening. I have placed a call to the hospital's social worker, Professor Marsh said, to no one in particular. They will be here within the hour. That is completely unnecessary, Dad said, and his voice had reassembled some of its authority. We are her parents, we will handle this. You have already handled it once tonight. I am requesting that someone else take a turn. There was a police officer. Questions. My parents' voices becoming less confident, more guarded, more careful. Celeste not speaking anymore. And Professor Marsh, moving back to where I was, her hand finding mine in the tangle of monitor leads, warm and deliberate and entirely present. You're safe, she said quietly. I know that word might feel hollow right now, but I mean it. You are safe tonight. I wanted to tell her that safe was a concept I had largely stopped trusting. I didn't have the energy. I let my eyes close. Let the reliable darkness return. 3 days later, I woke up properly, aware of where I was, able to hold a consecutive thought. Professor Marsh was in the chair beside my bed with a book. She looked up when she heard me move. She had been there every single day. She had promised she would not leave me alone, and she had kept it. The concussion required 4 days of inpatient monitoring. I had also bruised 2 ribs on my left side from the impact. Nothing that wouldn't heal, the attending physician told me. Nothing permanent. My parents had visited once during those 4 days. They arrived together, stood at the foot of my bed for approximately 12 minutes, said they were relieved I was going to be okay, left a bag with clean clothes and 2 days of homework assignments, and departed without ever sitting down. Neither said sorry. Neither explained. Neither asked if I wanted to come home or whether I needed anything beyond the physical items in the bag. Celeste did not come at all. On the 3rd day, a social worker named Donna arrived with a legal notepad and kind, careful eyes. She sat beside me for over an hour. I told her everything. The stolen money and the false accusation. The years of lies that had built up with no accountability. Madison's fabricated messages. The bruise. My father's words at the door. The storm. Donna listened and wrote and asked clarifying questions in a tone that told me she was not surprised by anything I was saying, which was in itself a kind of revelation, that there were people who worked in the world specifically because stories like mine were common enough to require professional attention. You have options, Nora, she said. You have real choices here. You do not have to return to that house if you don't want to. I asked her what my choices actually were. Professor Marsh knocked on the door at that exact moment and stepped inside. There's another option, she said. She looked at Donna first, then at me. Temporary foster placement while we figure out something more permanent, with me specifically if you're willing. I've already started the paperwork with the court. I stared at her for a long time. You met me once, I said. Before the accident, I was in your biology class for a guest lecture. I know. Why would you do this? She sat down on the edge of the bed. Because when I was 16 years old, someone kicked me out. A situation not entirely unlike yours, actually. And a woman who barely knew me opened her door. A woman named Dr. Priya Mehta, who was my geography teacher and who had absolutely no professional obligation to do what she did. She looked at me steadily. Dr. Mehta changed my life completely. I would not be sitting in this room. I would not be a professor. I would not have the research program. I would not have anything I have built without what she chose to do for me. And I have been waiting for a long time for a moment where I could pass that forward. I might be a terrible person to live with, I said. You might be difficult. You might be in pain for a while. That is fine. We will manage. I started crying, not the controlled kind. The kind that meant something had come apart that I hadn't realized I'd been holding together. If you want to go home, she said gently, I will understand that. If you want to try to reconcile with your parents, I will support that. But if you want to try something entirely different, I am here and I am not going anywhere. I thought about my father's voice at that door. A daughter like you. I thought about my mother's shoulders turned away. I thought about Celeste watching me walk into the rain and smiling. Something different, I said. 6 months later, I barely recognized my own life. Not because I had changed so dramatically, I was still the same person who had won the science fair ribbon and cried quietly in the kitchen and survived the storm, but because the context around me had been completely rebuilt. Professor Marsh, Catherine, lived in a 2-story house near the university that was organized with the kind of intentional calm I had never experienced in a domestic space before. Books on every wall. Plants in every window. Music playing at a low, consistent volume throughout the day. Classical, jazz, occasionally something with words when she was in a more expansive mood. She gave me a room with a window that looked out over the back garden and told me to make it feel like mine. I repainted it a shade of deep blue-green. She called it a good choice. I transferred to a new school. Nobody there knew anything about me, not my previous school's version of me, not the rumors about the stolen money, not the incident on the stairs, not the storm, none of it. I was simply Nora, a new junior transfer who was good at chemistry and had opinions about the layout of the school library and occasionally stayed after class to ask questions. It was, I discovered, extraordinary to be anonymous. To have no accumulated history of being the difficult one, the dramatic one, the one who needed to be managed. I just got to be a person. Catherine introduced me to a world I had not known existed. Not in the abstract, I knew universities existed, knew research existed, knew that people built careers around ideas, but in the specific, lived, textured reality of it. She took me to department colloquia and public lectures. She brought me to research symposiums and sat beside me afterward explaining what had been presented and what the arguments actually meant and why the methodology mattered. She introduced me to her colleagues as someone I would be hearing from professionally in a few years, said it directly and without hedging, in front of people who didn't know me and had no reason to believe it. "You have a calibrated mind," she told me one evening over dinner. Pasta, salad, a glass of sparkling water each. "You can evaluate an argument without needing to have a personal stake in the conclusion. That is the rarest intellectual quality I encounter." "My old school called me argumentative," I said. "Your old school confused confidence with confrontation. They do that with girls especially." "Education is freedom," she said often. "You cannot build a ceiling on a person who has access to knowledge. No one can take that from you once it's yours." I threw myself into school with a particular and focused kind of energy. Not because I needed to prove anything to anyone specifically, but because learning had stopped being a performance and started being a practice. I studied because the material was genuinely interesting, and because doing it well produced something I hadn't experienced much before. The feeling of being good at something without having to justify it to anyone. I earned straight A's. Not dramatically, not to announce anything, but simply because I could. I heard things about my old family through the occasional message from mutual acquaintances. Celeste was fine. Still at home, still golden. Still the center of everything. My parents had removed my photographs from the walls and replaced them with additional family portraits and a new arrangement of framed prints. Old family friends mentioned they didn't know what had happened between me and my parents, which told me my parents hadn't exactly been forthcoming with the truth. Good, I thought each time I heard one of those accounts. I wasn't there to correct anyone's narrative. I was busy building something more interesting. Senior year arrived with a specific momentum that felt like the world rearranging itself in my direction for the first time. I had a plan that was sharp and fully formed. University, education policy major, a career built around the systems that failed children the way the system had almost failed me. Catherine helped me identify scholarship opportunities, wrote recommendations that apparently caused 3 different admissions committees to call her directly for follow-up conversations, and sat with me in her kitchen going through application essays 1 line at a time. Not editing them for me, never doing my thinking for me, but asking questions that forced me to articulate what I actually meant rather than what I thought sounded good. I got in. Full scholarship, 4 years, to a university with one of the best education policy programs in the country. Catherine cried at the kitchen table when we opened the email. I had not seen her cry before that. It made it feel more real than any piece of paper could. University was 4 years of expanding in every direction. I majored in education policy and social equity with a minor in developmental psychology. I wanted to understand the architecture of systems, why certain kids got caught before they fell, and why others went through gaps wide enough to swallow a person whole. Summers, I worked at youth advocacy organizations and grant-writing nonprofits and a county-level educational equity office. I learned how institutional money moved, where the pressure points in a system were, how policy translated or failed to translate into actual human outcomes. I made friends who became genuine family, not people I had been assigned to by geography or biology, but people I chose slowly and carefully and who chose me back. I graduated with highest honors. Catherine was in the front row of the ceremony. I could see her from the platform when they read my name. She stood up before anyone else did. I went directly into a research coordinator position at the university's education department, Catherine's building, different floor, and spent 2 years building the technical foundation for what I actually wanted to do. At 25, the idea that had been assembling itself in the back of my mind for years finally had enough shape to act on. A scholarship fund specifically for students from unstable or fractured family environments. Students who had been displaced, abandoned, abused, aged out of foster care, or simply failed by the adults who were supposed to make sure they were okay. Students for whom the gap between where they were and where a degree could take them was a financial gap, yes, but also a belief gap, a fundamental deficit in the experience of being told by a credible institution that they were worth investing in. I called it the Open Door Scholarship, not subtle, but clear. Catherine helped me write the first grant proposals. We secured commitments from 3 foundations in the first funding cycle. We launched as a pilot at 1 university and awarded 11 scholarships in the first semester. Then 2 universities, then 4. At 26, we expanded to a 7th partner institution and crossed the threshold of 100 scholarship recipients. The numbers mattered, but the letters mattered more. I kept every single letter and email that came in from recipients. I will not pretend that building this program was revenge. It genuinely was not. Revenge is directed outward at someone specific. The Open Door Scholarship was directed inward, toward a version of myself at 15 who had deserved someone to believe in her and didn't have that, and toward every kid currently living that version of that story. I was not trying to make my parents feel bad. I was trying to make sure that what happened to me happened to fewer people. That distinction was not semantic. It mattered to how I built the program and the standards I held myself to within it. Media attention came gradually, then faster. Local journalists wrote about us. A national education journal featured the program in a special issue on innovative equity initiatives. I was invited to speak at conferences. I always told my story in the framework of the scholarship. The 15-year-old girl who had been told she didn't belong and who had found someone to believe in her, and I never used my family's names. I didn't need to. The story didn't require them. My colleague, a research associate named Benjamin Ward, knocked on my office door 8 months before the graduation ceremony where this story reaches its culmination. "Nora," he said, "someone is asking about you for a keynote invitation. They're being serious about it." "What institution?" "Greenfield University, spring graduation." Something went cold and then very still in my chest cavity. "That's," I stopped, breathed through it. "My sister's school." Benjamin looked at me for a moment. "I didn't know you had a sister." "I effectively don't, but she graduates this spring from Greenfield." He sat down across from my desk. "Do you want me to decline?" I looked at the stack of application files on my desk, the letters from scholarship recipients, a photograph on my wall that Catherine had taken on the day we awarded our 50th scholarship, my face not doing anything particularly composed about it. "What's the graduation theme?" I asked. "Resilience and equity in education." "They specifically requested you. Said your program was exactly what the ceremony should represent." I thought about Celeste, about what her graduation would look like: cap and gown, honor cords, parents in the audience, proud and beaming, the entire architecture of a successful, uncomplicated life. I thought about my parents sitting in those seats. I thought about standing at a podium 15 feet from where Celeste would be seated and telling the truth about who I was and what I had built, and how it had come from the thing they had done 13 years before. Not for their benefit, for mine, for the graduates in that audience who might be sitting in exactly the kind of pain I had carried through my adolescence, and who deserved to know that the pain was survivable. "I need to talk to Catherine," I said. "Tell them I'll give an answer by Friday." That evening, Catherine and I sat at the dinner table, the same table where we had eaten 1,000 ordinary meals and argued about research methodology and celebrated various milestones and sometimes sat in comfortable mutual silence. And I laid out the entire situation. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she set down her fork and asked, "What do you want to happen?" "I want to close something, not violently, not to cause damage. I want to tell the truth in a room where the truth has not been told, and I want to walk away from it intact. And if they're in the audience, then they'll hear the truth, which is what they should have done 13 years ago. You won't be able to control their response." "No, but I can control mine, and I can control the message. The speech is about the students, about the program, about what it means to get a second chance. My story is in it, but it's in service of something larger than my story." She was quiet for a moment. Then she reached across the table and covered my hand with hers. "Then go, on your terms, tell the truth with your head up, show them who you became." I called Benjamin the next morning. "Tell Greenfield yes," I said. "I'll send my speech outline by end of week." I didn't contact Celeste or search for her beforehand, but I did what anyone might do in the months leading up to that ceremony. I was aware of her social media, the way her life was being curated and broadcast. She posted frequently. Senior year documented in careful, lit photographs. Brunch tables with matching aesthetics. Study sessions that looked considerably more like influencer content than actual studying. A recurring visual narrative of a young woman surrounded by friends and support, and the warm, ambient approval of two parents who believed she could do no wrong. The captions were buoyant and grateful. "I'm so lucky to have the most supportive family. Blessed graduation family first." The comment sections were full of people telling her she was wonderful. I saw her post a photograph of herself at dinner with my parents. Dad's hair gone fully gray since the last time I'd seen him. Mom looking simultaneously proud and tired in the way of people who have been performing contentment for a long time. Wine glasses raised. Big smiles. Caption: "Celebrating the end of my final semester with the two best people I know. Love you, Mom and Dad to the moon." I closed the app. I had seen what I needed to see. Through a mutual acquaintance who was still loosely connected to both of us, I heard that Celeste had been looking forward to graduation, that she was excited about the ceremony. That she had mentioned the keynote speaker was supposed to be excellent, some researcher who started a scholarship program, supposed to be really inspiring. Celeste's response, apparently, had been, "Those speeches are always so long and boring, but whatever, it's my day anyway." I saved that, not as ammunition, just as evidence. The speech took me 3 weeks to write and rewrite. I shared drafts with Catherine, who sat with a legal pad and asked questions rather than offering edits. "What is the actual claim of this paragraph? What do you want the graduates to take away from this specific story? Is this detail serving the message or serving you personally?" I cut sections that were too pointed. I added context that grounded the personal narrative in the broader research. I practiced in front of a mirror until I could deliver every section without looking at the page and without my voice doing anything other than what I intended it to do. Catherine's one consistent note: "Don't name anyone. Tell the story. The truth of it will land without the names." The night before, I could not sleep. I lay on my back in my room, the blue-green room that had been mine for 13 years by that point, and stared at the ceiling and did an honest accounting of why I was doing this. Not the official version. The real one. Was this revenge? I held that question in the dark for a long time and looked at it carefully. No. Revenge would have felt satisfying in anticipation. This felt like completing something, like a chapter that had been left open for 13 years and needed a proper ending. Catherine appeared at my door around midnight with chamomile tea and honey. She sat on the edge of my bed the way she had when I was 15 and newly arrived in her house and could not stop shaking. "Second thoughts? No thoughts, just a lot of them. You are not the girl they put out in the rain," she said. "You are the person who built a way for 100 other kids to stay dry. Remember that tomorrow." In the morning, I put on a navy blazer over a crisp white blouse. A single strand of pearls that had belonged to Catherine's grandmother and which she insisted I borrow for significant occasions. In the mirror, I looked exactly like what I had become: confident, composed, someone who ran a program that had changed real lives. Nothing like the shaking 15-year-old with the unzipped jacket and the soaked shoes. I was ready. The Greenfield University campus was gorgeous in the spring light. Old stone buildings, Enormous oak trees in full leaf, the quad covered in folding chairs and color-coordinated flowers. Graduates everywhere in caps and gowns, families spilling across the grounds with cameras and balloons, and those enormous congratulatory signs. The air had that particular quality of a day that is designated by collective agreement as significant, everyone consciously trying to be present and happy and commemorative. I arrived early and met with President Whitmore in the administrative building. He was effusive and warm and shook my hand twice. "Ms. Callahan, what an honor. Your work is genuinely transformative. We could not be more pleased." Catherine arrived just before the processional and found me in the wings. She had worn an emerald blazer and looked exactly like what she was, a woman who had built something important and was proud of every piece of it. She hugged me and stepped back and looked at me for a moment the way she always did before something significant. "I'll be in the front section," she said. "Front row if I can manage it. Thank you for being here." Where else would I be? I found the graduation program in a stack backstage and ran my finger down the list of graduates until I found it. Celeste Callahan, Bachelor of Arts, Media and Communications, row 2, alphabetical sequence. My heart did something complex and quick. She would be close. 5 minutes, Ms. Callahan." President Whitmore's hand on my shoulder. The auditorium held roughly 800 people. I could hear the collective murmur of them from the wings, the particular acoustic signature of a crowd that has assembled in a state of celebratory anticipation. I looked out through a gap in the curtain, graduates filing in, families already seated. Catherine settled into the front section, stage right, and looked up directly at where I was standing and gave a single, small nod. I felt myself settle completely. President Whitmore stepped to the podium. The room quieted. He spoke for 4 minutes about institutional achievement and the class's particular resilience through a complicated year. Then, "Our keynote speaker today has built something remarkable out of something painful, and her work has directly changed the lives of more than 100 students across 10 university campuses. Please welcome the founding director of the Open Door Scholarship Program, Nora Callahan." The applause was full and warm. I walked out of the wings and into the light. The stage was broader than I had anticipated, the podium set precisely at center, the microphone adjusted for someone 3 inches taller than me. I moved it, straightened my note card, gripped the podium's edge, and looked out over the graduating class. Row 2, Celeste. She was clapping with everyone else, leaning toward the woman next to her saying something with a smile, and then she looked forward at the stage and the smile evaporated in real time. Her hands stopped moving. Her face went through something I had never seen on it before, confusion, and then the particular quality of recognition that arrives when you encounter something impossible in a context that doesn't allow for denial. Her mouth opened slightly. Nothing came out. Behind her, maybe 10 rows back, my parents, still clapping politely. Mom not looking up from her program, Dad mid-sentence to the person beside him. They had not registered my name yet. I adjusted the microphone. "Good morning." "Thank you, President Whitmore, for that introduction and for the honor of being here today." My voice carried clearly, amplified to every corner of the room. Dad's head came up. I watched it happen in slow motion, the familiar voice arriving in an unexpected context, the mental processing, the search for the face to match the sound. Mom's hand moved to her chest. I smiled, not at them, at the room. "I want to talk today about resilience, not the word, which has become so common in motivational contexts that it has partially lost its meaning, but the actual lived practice of it. What it requires, what it costs, what it builds." I had their full attention. The entire room's attention, but specifically theirs. When I was 15 years old, I was told by someone who was supposed to love me unconditionally that something was fundamentally wrong with me, that I was broken, that I was too much trouble to keep. The auditorium had gone very still. On a stormy night in October, I was put outside and told I wasn't wanted anymore. I walked alone in that storm for hours. I had nowhere to go. I was hit by a car. The collective intake of breath from the audience was audible. Celeste had gone absolutely rigid in her seat. The woman beside her was leaning toward her, asking something. Celeste was not responding. A stranger stopped. A professor who had met me exactly once, briefly, in a classroom, and had handed me a business card and told me not to let anyone dim my light. She found me on the side of that road, and she did not leave. Catherine's eyes were bright from the front section. I met them for a moment. She became my family, not because of biology had already made its position clear, but because she chose to. because she showed up every day for 13 years and earned every piece of what that word means. Row 2. Celeste had pressed her hand over her mouth. The friends on either side of her were exchanging glances. The open door scholarship was born from that night, not from anger. I want to be precise about this, not from a desire to prove anything to anyone specific, but from a determination that what happened to me, being told at 15 that I was worth less than the lie someone told about me, should happen to fewer kids. I looked out over the sea of graduates, young faces, hopeful, uncertain, proud, scared, all of it layered together the way only commencement ceremonies produce. The students I've had the privilege of supporting through this program are not charity cases. They are not damaged goods. They are people who received accurate information about their own worth too late from adults who were supposed to deliver it early. My job and the program's job is simply to say, someone sees you. Someone believes you have something worth building. Let's build it together. Mom was crying. I could see the mascara tracking down her face from the stage. Dad had both hands covering his face. Neither had left. Neither had moved. To the graduating class, you will face moments in your life when someone whose opinion you've trusted tells you you're not enough. When a door closes that you believed would stay open. When the people who should be in your corner are sitting in someone else's. I gripped the podium. Those moments are not the end of your story. They are the point where your story actually begins, because you get to decide what happens next. You get to decide what you build from it. The standing ovation began in the middle section and spread. Students first, then faculty, then families. Dad remained in his seat, hands still covering his face. Mom stood mechanically and brought her palms together without energy. Celeste did not move at all. I stepped back from the podium. President Whitmore was shaking his head in a way that suggested he was not entirely professionally composed. "That was extraordinary," he said. I thanked him and walked back into the wings and stood still for a moment and breathed. The ceremony continued in a different atmosphere than it had begun. The graduate procession moved forward, names called, diplomas handed over, photographs taken, but something had shifted in the room. I watched from backstage through the gap in the curtain. Celeste Callahan's name was called. She stood, walked to the stage, accepted the diploma with both hands. The applause was uneven, her close friends in full force, a solid contingent of the audience simply watching rather than clapping, a murmur still moving through the rows. She walked off stage quickly and disappeared into the cluster of graduates standing to the side. I could see her friends surrounding her almost immediately. One of them had her hand on Celeste's arm. Celeste was shaking her head. After the final names, after the caps went into the air, after President Whitmore released the class of the year to their futures, I slipped out a side exit and met Catherine in the reception area outside the main auditorium doors. She walked straight to me and held me for a long moment without saying anything. "How do you feel?" she asked eventually. I considered the question honestly. Like something I was carrying finally got set down. Benjamin appeared at my shoulder. "Nora, your family is asking to speak with you. They're at the east entrance, your parents and your sister." "I know," I straightened. 5 minutes, that's what I have for them." Catherine looked at me. "You don't owe them anything." "I know that too, but I want to do it on my terms, and my terms include a conversation." She nodded. "I'll be right here." I walked to the east entrance. They were standing beside a stone pillar, Dad gray and diminished, Mom's makeup destroyed by crying, Celeste slightly behind them with red eyes and a clenched jaw. I stopped at a distance that felt appropriate, professional, deliberate. "You wanted to talk," I said. Dad's mouth opened and closed twice before anything came out. "Nora, we didn't know you were going to be here." "No, you wouldn't have. You look," Mom's voice broke before she could complete the sentence. "You look so well." "I am well," Catherine made sure of that. Dad's eyes moved to Catherine, who had followed me to the entrance and stood 3 feet behind me, quiet and present. "We owe you an apology," Dad said. His voice had been stripped of its authority completely. What was left was something much older and much more tired. "You owe me considerably more than that, but an apology is a reasonable place to start." "We made a terrible mistake," Mom said. "We chose wrong. We should have listened to you. We should have protected you. We were your parents and you were my parents," I said, not cruelly, just precisely. "And you chose her lie over my truth. You called me sick. You sent me out into a storm at 15 years old and closed the door. And then you came to the hospital and left without apologizing and took my photos off the walls and went on with your lives. We looked for you, Dad said. After the hospital, when you were transferred to Catherine's care and then you disappeared, I changed my legal name. I needed to disappear. I met his eyes. I needed to heal without you looking over my shoulder. Can we fix it? Mom's hand reached toward me. I stepped back, not dramatically, just clearly. No, there's nothing to fix. The relationship that would need to be fixed doesn't exist anymore. You ended it 13 years ago. I'm not angry about it anymore. I'm not anything about it. I just don't have room in my life for people who once told me I was sick and threw me into a storm. Please, Dad's voice cracked. We have thought about that night every single day. Every day, Nora. Good. I hope you continue to, not out of punishment, but because the people who need to understand what they did should spend time with that understanding. Then Celeste. She had moved forward while her parents were speaking and was standing just behind them, looking at me with an expression I had never seen on her face in 28 years of sharing genetic material. She looked broken. Not the theatrical broken she had produced in the living room 13 years ago, but something genuinely fractured and exposed. I know you don't want to hear from me, she said. Her voice was very small. I know I don't get to ask you for anything, but I need to say it anyway. I was 12 years old and I was jealous and terrified, and I convinced myself that what I was doing was somehow justified, and it wasn't, and I have known that every day since the night I watched you walk into that storm. The friends of hers who had trailed her to the entrance were standing a short distance away, listening. I could see the calculations happening in their faces. One of them, a tall young woman with close-cropped hair, caught my eye and mouthed, "I'm so sorry." I nodded to her. "Madison," I said, and then corrected myself. "Celeste, old habits from a different life. I'm not going to tell you whether you were right to feel jealous or scared. That's yours to work out, but you were old enough at 12 to know that what you did would hurt me. You were old enough at 15 to see me walking into that storm and stop it. You were old enough for the 13 years that followed to pick up a phone and tell the truth. You kept choosing not to." She flinched. "I know. I forgive you. Not for your benefit, for mine. Carrying that particular weight for 13 years was already enough." I met her eyes. "But I don't want a relationship. I need you to hear that clearly and respect it completely." "What if no?" Clear, final, calm. "This isn't negotiable. You made choices across 13 years that made a relationship between us impossible. I'm not punishing you. I'm just being honest." Celeste's closest friend had moved closer to her and put a hand on her arm. "You know," the friend asked her quietly but audibly, "did you know this whole time that you had a sister?" "She told us you died," another friend said from slightly further back. "Last year, she said you were killed in an accident when you were kids." My eyebrows rose slightly. I turned back to Celeste. "You told them I was dead." Celeste's face flushed completely. "It was easier than the truth," I said. "Yes, I know, that was always the pattern." Her friends were beginning to drift away. I watched it happen, the quiet, deliberate renegotiation of their proximity to her. I felt something for her in that moment, not warmth, not pity exactly, but the recognition of what it looked like when the architecture of a dishonest life began to come down. "You built that," I said, not unkindly. "The same way you built what happened to me. Everything has a cost eventually." President Whitmore appeared, heading toward us with a folder and a warm smile, completely oblivious to the emotional temperature of the conversation. "Ms. Callahan, forgive the interruption. The board asked me to give you this directly." He handed me an envelope. University letterhead. A formal partnership offer, 3 new campuses. He turned to my parents with the open, indiscriminate warmth of someone who assumed everyone in the vicinity of his keynote speaker must be a fan. "Are you Nora's family? You must be absolutely bursting with pride." A silence that lasted approximately 4 seconds too long. "Yes," Catherine said from behind me, her voice perfectly pitched. "They are, aren't you?" Dad looked at me. Something had changed in his face. The authority was gone, the certainty was gone, and what remained was a much older and much simpler grief. "Yes," he said, "we are." President Whitmore beamed, shook my hand again, excused himself, moved on. I looked at my parents one more time, really looked. They were older than I had registered the last time I'd seen them from a distance on social media. Dad's hands were still slightly unsteady. Mom's eyes were still wet. "I don't need you to be proud of me," I said. "I built what I built because I needed to build it, not for your validation." "We know," Mom said. "We just want you to know we see it." "I hear that." I reached into my jacket pocket and took out a card. My program's card, the open door scholarship logo, my name and title, the address. I held it out. If you want to understand what I've built, there's a public report on the website. If you want to contribute to it in some way, a donation, a referral, anything that actually helps the kids this program serves, that would mean more than any conversation you could offer me." Dad took the card with both hands, like it was something he might damage. "We'll look," he said. "I know." I stepped back. Looked at Celeste one last time. She was standing alone now. The friends had dispersed entirely. She was standing in the middle of a graduation reception in her cap and gown, and she was alone. I did not feel triumphant about it. "Take care of yourself," I told her. She couldn't speak. I turned and walked back to Catherine. She looked at me with one eyebrow very slightly raised, her standard inquiry. "How did that go?" "Done," I said. "Let's get lunch." She linked her arm through mine. We walked across the campus. I did not look back. "I want to stop here for a moment and ask you something directly. Have you ever had to have a conversation like that, where you had to look at someone who hurt you badly and tell them the truth without making it a weapon? If you have, drop a comment below. Because I know that those conversations are some of the hardest things a person can do. They require you to be incredibly honest about what you feel while also refusing to let the feelings do the driving. And I want to know if that resonates with you. If it does, please subscribe. I share these stories because I genuinely believe that someone out there is in the middle of something like this right now and needs to hear that it is survivable. Now let me tell you what the months after that ceremony looked like. The week after Greenfield graduation, the calls and messages began arriving. My parents' names showing up on my phone screen. Multiple voicemails from Dad, quiet, rehearsed, sounding like a man who had spent time preparing something he wasn't certain he deserved to say. "Nora, it's your father. I know you have no reason to call me back. I need you to know that I understand what I did. I think I've understood it for a long time. I was just afraid of what understanding it fully would require me to do." Long emails from Mom, pages of them, accounting for decisions and circumstances and explanations that came 13 years too late. I read them, all of them. I didn't respond, but I read them, because there is a difference between not forgiving someone and not being willing to hear them. Work absorbed everything else and kept me functional and forward-facing. The speech clip that someone had taken from their seat in the auditorium got posted to social media and began moving slowly at first, then with the acceleration of content that touches something real. 70,000 views, then 200,000. The comments arrived in waves. "I am 22 years old and my parents put me out at 17 and I have been ashamed of that for 5 years. This woman just told me I didn't have to be. Family is built." That line. I needed that line. "Someone please find out what scholarship program she runs. My cousin needs this." Applications to the Open Door Scholarship tripled within a week of the video circulating. 3 additional university presidents contacted our office requesting partnership conversations. A national education nonprofit offered a collaboration that would add substantial new funding. The program had existed for 2 years at a level that felt genuinely impactful. Now it was expanding into something I had not anticipated managing. Benjamin knocked on my office door one morning looking simultaneously overwhelmed and delighted. "You need to hire 2 more coordinators immediately. The application volume alone, I know, I'm working on it. Also, a journalist from the Tribune wants to interview you, and someone from a national education podcast. A researcher in England who studies Benjamin." He stopped. "Schedule the Tribune for next week. Podcast the week after. I'll read the England researcher's work and respond directly." He nodded, made notes, started to leave. "Benjamin," he turned back, "do we have a waitlist protocol in place for scholarship applications that qualify but exceed our current funding capacity? Developing one now. Make it the priority. The kids waiting are the only thing that actually matters here." Celeste's social media went quiet after the ceremony. The posts stopped. The curated life updates, the brunch photographs, the Grateful Daughter content, all of it simply ceased. Her accounts eventually went to private. I heard through the same loosely connected mutual network that 2 of her closest friends had formally distanced themselves after the ceremony. That a job offer she had received in her field had apparently been rescinded after someone connected to the hearing company had seen the viral clip and made certain inquiries. I did not feel good about those pieces of information. I also did not feel bad. Life has a remarkable tendency to make accurate assessments of people when enough witnesses are paying attention. Dad sent one more email 3 weeks after the ceremony. 2 sentences. "We are proud of you." We have no right to be, but we are, and I wanted you to know it. I read it twice and archived it. I did not respond. Mom called once. I let it go to voicemail. She said she understood if I didn't want to call back. She said she just wanted me to know they were there if I ever changed my mind. I saved the voicemail. I did not call back. Catherine and I went to Chicago for a national equity conference where she was presenting a paper and I was appearing on a panel. We flew business class because the institution was paying for it, and because I was 35 minutes away from a significant anxiety attack about the panel when I sat down in that seat, and the additional space made the whole situation more manageable. We presented. The panel was full. The questions were good. Afterward, someone from a federal education policy office came up to me and gave me their card and said the program I had built was exactly the kind of model they were looking to study at a national scale. I held that card for a moment and thought about a 15-year-old girl soaking wet on a road in October and how genuinely impossible that moment would have been to believe. Catherine saw my face from across the reception area and raised her glass in a small, private toast. I raised mine back. A year after the Greenfield graduation, I stood in the auditorium of a community college on the south side of the city and gave a shorter version of the same speech I had given at Greenfield. Different audience, adult learners, many of them returning to education after significant gaps, many of them with stories not unlike mine. Afterward, a woman who looked to be about 40 came up to me. Her name was Rosa. She had been placed in foster care at 14 after her parents lost custody. She had tried college twice before and left both times. The Open Door Scholarship had covered her final 2 years. She was holding her associate's degree in nursing with both hands. "You made this possible," she said. "You personally." "The program made it possible," I said. "I just built the door." "The door was enough," she said. She hugged me and walked back to her family. I stood there for a moment in an auditorium full of people celebrating something real and thought about my father's words on a night 13 years ago. Sick daughter. I thought about them and felt nothing in particular. No pain, no anger, no residual ache. Just the quiet recognition that those words had been wrong about me in every measurable way. And that the most complete possible response to being told you are broken is to spend 13 years building something unbroken and share it freely with everyone who needs it. I want to be direct with you before this story closes because I think directness matters. I was lucky in specific and measurable ways. Professor Catherine Marsh found me on that road. Not every kid gets found. Not every kid who gets kicked out of their house ends up in a stable placement within 48 hours. Not everyone who is told they are broken gets someone to look them in the eyes and say those words were wrong. I know this. The Open Door Scholarship exists partly because I know it. The gaps in the system that I fell through, the ones that nearly swallowed me permanently, are still there. They are wider in some places than they were 13 years ago. Every scholarship we award is a hand reaching across one of those gaps. It is not sufficient. It is not a solution to a systemic problem. But it is real, and it helps real people, and you build what you can with what you have. I want to say something about forgiveness, because I think it is the part of stories like mine that gets the most misunderstood. I do not have a relationship with my parents. I have not responded to their communications. I have not initiated contact. I have accepted that the family structure I was born into is not something I have the energy or the desire to reconstruct. And I have also genuinely forgiven each person involved, not for their sakes, for mine. Forgiveness is not a gift you give the person who hurt you. It is a weight you put down so you can walk more freely. When I forgave my parents, when I forgave Celeste, I did not make them feel better. I made myself lighter. Those two things are not the same and should not be confused for each other. Boundaries are not walls, and they are not punishment. They are honest architecture. I forgive you and I don't want contact is not a contradiction. It is two separate truths existing simultaneously. The first is about your interior. The second is about access. You have the right to decide who has access to you. That right does not require justification. You do not have to explain it. You do not have to defend it. You do not have to negotiate it with the person whose access you are limiting. You can simply make the decision and hold it. I also want to say something about family, specifically about the word and what it actually means. I have a mother. Her name is Catherine Marsh. She did not give birth to me. She is 61 years old, and she is the emergency contact on every form I have ever filled out since I was 15 years old. She is the person I called when the Open Door Scholarship awarded its 100th recipient. She is the person I sat with on her couch at 2 in the morning 2 years ago when a professional situation went badly wrong, and I needed to think through it with someone I trusted completely. She is the most consistently present and genuinely loving person I have ever been close to in my life. Blood did not make her my mother. 13 years of showing up did. There is a photograph on my desk of the two of us taken at the National Equity Conference in Chicago. We are both holding glasses of sparkling water, and we are both laughing at something the photographer said. We look like what we are, two people who built a family out of choice and consistency and mutual respect. I look at that photograph sometimes when I need to remember that the story that was written for me when I was 15, sick daughter, broken, not worth keeping, was not the story I was going to live. It was just the draft someone else tried to hand me. I wrote my own. Every October, on the anniversary of the storm, I drive past the house I grew up in. I don't stop. I don't knock. I park across the street for about 2 minutes and look at the windows and the door, and I say the same thing to myself that I have said every year since I was 16. You survived that. You were told you were too broken to keep, and you survived it, and you built something from it, and you did not let them write the ending. It takes about 2 minutes. Then I drive home, to Catherine's house, my house, to the blue-green room and the walls of books and the classical music playing softly in the kitchen. To my family, the one I chose, the one that chose me back. If you are watching this right now in the middle of your own storm, not a metaphorical one, maybe an actual one, maybe the kind where someone whose love you needed just told you that you weren't worth it, I want you to hold two things simultaneously. The first is that it is survivable. I know it doesn't feel survivable right now, but I am sitting here 13 years later having built a life that I am genuinely proud of, and the thing that built it was the storm that nearly destroyed me. That is not a comfortable truth, but it is a true one. The second thing is this. You do not have to rebuild your relationship with every person who hurt you in order to heal. Healing is yours. It belongs to you. It is not contingent on them understanding what they did or apologizing for it or changing who they are. You can heal without them. You can build without them. You can thrive without them. Set the boundaries that protect your peace. Choose the family that earns that word. Build the thing that turns your pain into someone else's second chance. That is what I did. That is what this story is about. Not a family that failed me. A life I built despite them. Thank you for staying with me through this entire story. It means more than I can adequately express in a YouTube outro. If something I said today landed somewhere real for you, please leave a comment. I read them, or at least I try to read as many as I can. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. And subscribe, not for the metrics, but because I want to keep telling stories like this, and I want them to reach the people who need them. You are exactly enough. You have always been exactly enough. Take good care of yourselves. I will see you in the next story.